We're always showing you guys the touristy crap, but in today's video, I'm going to show you guys the real Florida. We're going to catch live bait on the water, and then we're going to take this live bait out in the Everglades to go fishing. This beautiful shell came up with the cast net. You like it?
Yeah.
I think I know somebody who likes shells you can give it to.
Yeah.
Now, these things are called moharas. These little guys are called moharas, and you're allowed to keep 50 per person. So we'll get 50 of these little guys. How you guys think the Yukon is looking? There we go. Tiny little mohara. But he's going in bucket. Little guy in there. Hey, little guy. So we as YouTubers pretty much make a living showing you guys all the touristy type of crap in Florida. But on today's video, we're gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna show you guys the real Florida, the Florida that to me is real. Not the touristy crap. I'm gonna show you guys what somebody who grew up in Southwest Florida, what we consider the real Florida. So let's get in the Yukonator. Let's go on this ride. And let's see the real Florida. Because all this is really, frankly, well, it's just for tourists. Let's do it. So let's move away from the touristy parts of Florida. Let's go out in the Everglades and see the real Florida. I gotta kind of oxygenate the water so the fish don't die with my brakes. Salt life, but you're from New Jersey. This sucks. Okay, so now we're passing North Naples. I decided to get off the Trouble because there's so much traffic. I don't want to be stuck there all day. So this is North Naples where I grew up. I really doubt that the person that owns a $40 million piece of property just put that camper there. So my guess is somebody's living in that camper. Welcome to California. Well, if you allow one, you know what happens, right? All right, everybody. This is where we're going to spend the day today. The Picayune Strand State Forest. I'm going to explain to you guys how this place came to be. And we're going to find a lot. We're going to learn a lot about Florida in this little area. All right, guys. So there's no more iron soldiers. There's a new change to the regulations. Fees must now be paid online. So Katie's going to take care of that for us. Well, this is technically a wildlife preserve area. The state of Florida spends millions and millions of dollars moving dirt around and creating paths and doing things. Now, the state of Florida has decided that this is going to be a preserve. Now, this was plotted out as a grid pattern. And this grid pattern was originally going to be part of the Golden Gate Estates, which is a residential grid pattern of homes. However, at that time, environmentalists became aware, and while a few homes were built out here, the vast majority of this land was still undeveloped, and it was purchased by the people of Florida to turn it into a preserve. In other words, no homes were going to be built out here. It was supposed to be an ecological area. Now, the roads were paved, and at this point, the state of Florida has come in here and kind of done this for some reason. And there are quite a few of these blocks known to the locals as the South blocks. So despite being a natural area in the Everglades, there's a grid pattern that cuts this place apart. Designated trails are allowed to be used. So now the state of Florida decides that they want to, what they call, reconstruct the Everglades, which means that these natural areas are being tampered with once again by humans to do whatever the state of Florida is doing here. So human intervention has done a lot of damage to Florida and these natural areas. And now with, well, the state once again involved in whatever this is, human intervention continues to be reshaping the land for one purpose or another. It's a little dirtier now than when we started. Now, of course, since it's a construction project, you're not allowed to enter these areas now, which before you were allowed to enter. So I was planning to enter these areas on foot and explore the wooded parts. But since it's a construction site, they're allowed to ban you from entering, where if this was not a construction site, then it would be open to the public on foot, not on vehicle. This is the real Florida. Right now, the level of frustration that I feel is beyond what you could imagine. The fishing spot that we plan to come to today is over there. This is 100th Avenue. It used to be a paved road. Well, now it's no longer a paved road, which means I'm pretty sure they're not going to allow access in here vehicles. And even though there's signs going that way that says do not enter, there's no signs this way that say do not enter, but there is work equipment here, which would suggest it's a construction site. But beyond that, since they tore the road out, it is now a sand pit, which means unless you have a four-wheel drive vehicle, you're not getting back here. And most likely, our fishing spot is now inaccessible because the state of Florida removed 100th Avenue Road. They just cleared it. They got rid of it. Now it's gone. Who are ready to do hiking and camping, the real Florida, which is the Everglades. But apparently, none of it's accessible. It's a giant construction site now. As far as seeing black bears out here, all you're going to see is the bear running across the road briefly. So you're not going to see like a black bear out in the open, rarely. So this is what they call the Everglades Restoration Project. Remember this scene right here of all these trees being cut down? We'll get back to this in a minute. Alright, before moving forward, I want to show you guys this. This is a pupusa. It is a Salvadorian dish. So if you've never been to a Salvadorian restaurant, I definitely recommend this. So we've reached the end of the road. We're going to walk. I'm going to explain to you guys a little bit exactly what's going on in Florida. How exactly the Everglades Restoration Project works, its goals, and why this project seems necessary. In the 50s, Florida started to create canal systems with the intention that these canals were going to be used to drain Florida so that everything could be used to build homes, practically, was the goal. So with development in mind in the 50s, a canal system was created to drain the Florida Everglades. And it effectively worked to drain the Everglades. Now, moving forward, we're in a different era. And there's an interest to restore the flow of the Everglades. We're on Miller and 128th. This is also prime habitat for the Florida panther. Florida panthers are elusive and they're very, very hard to see. In fact, I've seen many black bears in my life. The closest I've ever got to a Florida panther has been a footprint. All this region of Florida was known as the River of Grass, a very slowly flowing, about 50-mile path that stretches this part of Florida from Lake Okeechobee all the way down to the Everglades. The problem about that River of Grass, and I think a lot of these ecologists have failed to note, is that the River of Grass in this part of Florida is filtered by the cypress trees, and it's not a fast-moving river. If we were to restore this area and it were to have trees like you have here, the water moves through here, but it's filtered very carefully. The problem is when the water is flowing over these wide stretches, the water moves too fast. And in fact, instead of filtering the water, what it does is it contaminates the water. When water is flowing through grasses, and there's little fishies and little animals and a little ecosystem based around just simply that water, then it does work like a river of grass. And by the time the water hits the Everglades, that water's clean. After Hurricane Irma, the red tide was the worst it's ever been. And I believe somebody who has grown up here in Florida has a passion for these natural areas, that one of the reasons why Hurricane Irma unleashed some of the worst red tide we've ever seen is because of places like this. In Bonita Springs, the firewalls were created. So what do we as humans try to do after a hurricane? Well, we do everything we can to speed the water up, so the water leaves and drains as fast as possible so we can return to life. The problem is that that's a process that in nature takes months, if not even longer, for those waters to recede to those levels. And again, if we're concerned with restoring the flow of the Everglades, what do you think is going to happen to all these communities and developments we've built in places like Naples? It's just the most, I don't even want to, the word that I want to use isn't really appropriate. It's absurd, the notion that now, after we've built communities on both sides of Florida, and then we have millions of people down here, we decide, oh, let's restore the floor of the Everglades. Now, we shouldn't have been in here in the first place, making canals to drain Florida. But these canals, at this point, they've been here so long that they're they're frankly almost part of the environment at this point. And now, while in theory it makes sense to restore the floor of the Everglades, we're not really restoring the floor of the Everglades. What we're doing is creating expressways for the water. And these expressways for the water are not going to be able to filter the water the way that Florida naturally did it. In other words, the River of Grass was a slow-flowing river. Remember the image that I told you guys to remember earlier in the video? Well, that image is an image of something interesting. Peculiar at that. Namely, that image illustrates that in order to create this river of grass again, restore it to its original flow, we're actually in the process of tearing down lots of trees. And these open areas that they're creating are really firewalls to prevent houses that are being built from, well, being destroyed in wildfires. Well, why does that matter? Pretty simple. If you hadn't messed with the river of grass to begin with, you wouldn't be in a situation now where homes are threatened by fire. The reason Florida has become volatile in the area of forest fires, notice how every once in a while I stop and look behind me, and that is because panthers, despite the fact I've never seen one, they've seen me. Okay. Well, walking, you can really approach upon animals in a different way than you would in a vehicle. You can really get close if you're walking. If you're in a vehicle, you scare them away. They can hear the vehicle. In fact, you can hear, as a human, the vehicle from miles and miles away. Therefore, this river of grass that we're talking about was a slow-flowing river. What's being done now is an expressway for water. And that expressway is all it's going to do is rush unfiltered water straight to the ocean and rivers, which is not the way the river of grass is intended to flow. The grasses and the ecosystems that are in place would slow down, retain, and kind of hold at bay these natural processes so that when the water hit the Gulf of Mexico, it was filtered. But what they're creating now with these open expressways, let's call them, for water, is that when it rains or hurricanes and floods, massive amounts of water are going to rush into the canals, flush out all this water all at once into the Gulf of Mexico. Water that didn't go through a natural process to be filtered. And yes, I do look behind me every once in a while. Let's talk a little bit about the ecology, the plants that are out here. As you can see here, we are approaching kind of the edge of the Everglades towards kind of almost to what's really like the bottom of Florida. You can see these are natural. This is coffee right here. It's a natural type of coffee. It's not quite the coffee that you're consuming at home. It's a much less edible version. The food for a lot of the animals, like the black bears, comes from the plants. Now, under threat, and again, I always look behind me while you're out here. You have Florida panthers, and if you don't see them, don't assume that they haven't seen you. What else is out here in these Everglades? Well, the oil industry has a few little taps. But of course, right now, I believe they've been evicted from Florida. But there is natural gas and oil here in this county. You can tell that down in that direction, it's a little bit deeper. You'll notice in that direction over there, cypress trees. So when you see cypress trees, it means it's deeper. That means there's water there almost all the year. On this side, you have pine trees, so it's higher terrain. You can see there's ferns around us. Even though it's hot, I'm wearing a sweater. There's a lot of poison ivy out here. But in here, you'll have a bunch of palm trees. Beautiful Florida cypress. Of course, like I said, we are in prime black bear habitat. Katie and I have seen black bears in this area that are huge. And when I say huge, I mean absolutely huge. We saw a black bear right before we moved to Alabama out here. It's probably pushing 500 to 600 pounds. And that sounds like an exaggeration. There's a YouTuber that puts out trail cameras. And on his trail cameras, you get a notes. There is one black bear in Collier County that is an absolute giant. There's somewhat of a trail. They're going to be deeper into the swamps, nestled deep into muddy area, relaxing, waiting for nightfall. See areas like this that are kind of heavier, you know, like with the vegetation, are prime habitat for black bears, panthers, to hang out during the day until it's cool enough to get out. These are nocturnal animals. Very nocturnal animals. I'm really concerned that it's just expressways for water, and that this rush of water into the Gulf is just going to aggravate things even further. I grew up watching Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, my childhood hero. To me, these natural areas are important. And like I said, there was a time when you could go from the Picayune to the Fakahatchee Strand and just literally explore this entire area. Literally explore this entire area by vehicle. But now, every time you go between one area to the other, there's more areas that are under construction, so technically now you can't go to those areas. And then they fence it off. There used to be motorcycles that used to ride through here every single weekend. And the tourists from Connecticut complained about it, so they closed it. Guys, there was literally a time when you can go through all these Everglades. Like me and Katie would go in one outside of the Everglades and come out the other side. Now, to explore the same areas that are all adjacent to each other, you have to drive an hour in a circle to reach the next park. But we used to go in from Naples and come out near Miami. Like, we would just go off-roading. Not like, you know, serious off-roading, but there's trails and roads to communicate at these parks. And, well, they can put in gates between the parks, and they make it ever more difficult. And it wasn't more than 10 people during the weekends. To me, the Everglades is a special place. So the areas that I wanted to explore today are not exactly the areas we're actually exploring. Kind of didn't work out the way I was hoping. But we're here. Of course, the area also has rattlesnakes. You also have water moccasins, black bears, Florida panthers, coyotes, foxes, lots of deer. What else is out here? I'm going to try to keep the camera recording as much as possible, since, like I said, most of the time when you see a black bear, it is for a few brief moments. It crosses your path, and that's it. Out here, it's hot, it's muggy. It's the Florida Everglades. Now, you see a path I might be able to take. We're here. We got to get on the next walk up, which means we're already in the woods. But we're going to go even further into the woods. And this is where things can get kind of dicey. So how do you know if you're about to see a black bear? Well, sometimes you'll hear them, or you'll even smell them before you see them. So now, we're really in the woods. We are really, really deep in the Everglades. Deep enough to where a panther could be, or a black bear could be sleeping in these woods, or even a nest. These are the types of places where a panther or a black bear could easily be. And we are literally in their face, in their territory. I mean, we are literally inside the Everglades now, for real. And there's nowhere to hide or run. We are now inside of the Everglades. Riding through, we could be face to face with a black bear, or a panther. But even in here, we're deep into this, guys. You can barely see more than 10 feet ahead of you. And these are the type of stupid things that you don't want to do in the Everglades. We're on a trail here now. These trails are prime habitat for a black bear to come storming through here. Also, Africanized bees, the number of threats out here, it's awesome. But here we go. Open field, and we're moving westbound. Eventually I want to move north. Now, this is exhausting. It's hot. This is absolutely exhausting. You gotta lift your feet in these heavy boots. Okay, that's exhausting. Whew. So if you think exploring the hoods is dangerous and where you're in a car with air conditioner, try this. We're gonna be on the lookout now. We're on the sandy patches for the footprints of panthers and black bears. Believe me, they're out here. I've been on trails like this that are very sandy, and I walk them. And when I walk back, what do you think is in the sand? The footprints of a panther that was following me. It's not that I haven't been near them. It is that they will not. Something up ahead. You guys saw that? Oh, it could have been a turkey. You guys saw that? It's on video. I'll see how good I can zoom into it later. You guys saw that? Did you guys see that? Up ahead. Could have been a turkey. Could have been a bear. I just saw a black thing. So up ahead. Let's go. Now, we are in Florida. It's hot. It's really hot. There's no phone service for the most part in these places. Luckily today, for some reason there is. But if you look carefully in the sand, you'll see footprints, none of which are human-like. There's also pigs, wild hogs. These guys are very dangerous. And they're another reason why I'm wearing this sweater is these Africanized bees. You'll be able to smell the bear when you get close. Why Africanized bees are a problem is because they attack unprovoked. Regular honeybees only attack you if you mess with them, but these Africanized bees will unprovoked go after you. Before this area was titled a natural preserve, it was actually plotted for construction. As you can see, there's trails. And this is all going to be part of Naples. Fortunately for this place, it decided to cap it and say, nope. And really, it's just an ambitious plan. So who gets to see the most wildlife in Florida? Hunters. You settle in quietly on a trail like this, and who knows what will pass through here. Now, this is the end of the wet season. It's the perfect time to be out here exploring. Once it starts to rain, these places will become increasingly unpassable. I think the fishing is going to be good at this canal over here.
Oh no, it's gonna be terrible.
I still got those bait fish, and I haven't caught anything.
Well, the fishes want to go to the water, but they want to go straight to the water.
I said we'll give this canal a try. What do you think?
No, Have. I'm gonna go to a Immokalee.
I want to go to Immokalee and get some Mexican food, but first...
No, I'm too
Hey, you're not the boss here. Now, this whole video is about me fishing, so just pull over here by the side road. Slow down. You're making a dust cloud. Slow down. Slow down. Slow right here. No, we're flicking out. To the right. 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 Right there. Just a little bit further ahead. There you go. You think there's some good fish in here?
No, it looks too shallow.
Why you always lie? So we came to fish. We're gonna give this last canal a try. The fishing spot that I had in mind. Well, seems like the state of Florida had other plans for it. It's either gonna happen or ain't.
Music.
Bro, what the crap are you listening to?
On Mexican music?
Are you going to a cockfight later or something?
No, I want to prepare my body for Mexican.